Hello, I'm John. Welcome to a special class with Howard Jones. It's part two of a four-part series where we're exploring lots of different techniques to do with art. Last week we were focused on brush techniques, which was really fantastic. But today I think it's probably one of the most important ones, values in art. And some people would argue that compared to colours, values are probably more important in your art. I mean, just look at black and white photography or black and white art. It's the values, the lights and shades in the piece of art really frame the composition, create the focal points, which one of the things we're going to be focusing on next week. Really looking forward today to find out Howard's take on a variety of different things and how he uses them in his art. So enough from me. Let's say hello to Howard. Hi, Howard. How are you?
I'm good, thank you, John. Good.
A very cold Howard, because your underfloor heating has stopped working. But
yeah.
You're not coughing as much this week, so I think
you've noticed. Yeah, just managed to shake it off, I think. So things are looking up apart from the temperatures in the house.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So values. Am I right in saying that they're probably one of the most important things in your art?
You're absolutely right, John. I think, color is important. There's lots of very important things. Tonal value, I think, is king. And you probably hear many other artists say this, particularly professional artists will make this point. Without it, we have nothing. There's lots of sort of examples I could give you, but if you imagine just everything on a single tonal value, if naught is white and black is 10, if you can imagine just a painting that was completely painted with just a shift, one small shift, a very close shift in tonal value, you'd have nothing really to look at, nothing to focus on. So yeah, absolutely essential. It's an essential bit of learning.
Because one of the things I did recently was I converted the color wheel to black and white, and it's quite interesting. There are certain colors that when you see the color are totally different, but when you look at the black and white image, they're almost identical. So they're identical in value. And that's quite an interesting, that was quite an interesting revelation for me.
That really is another good point. You should be doing this, John, not me. No, that's such a good point. And I think I was going to mention this, and I will mention it, that once you've learned value, the no-tan scale, the grayscale, what you've got to start using then is your colors. Start to see your colors as tonal values. Yeah. So yeah, you beat me to it.
Oh, sorry, I didn't want to steal your thunder. Right, so over to you. You've got it planned out.
Yeah, no, serious, good point, John. So hello everybody. So I'm going to start the very basics here. I'm just going to run through what is referred to as the grayscale, or the no-tan scale. You might hear it referred to. I don't know why I do this. I sort of prefer to see it from left to right here. This is just a simple something I put together, which we could all do. It's a useful little bit of kit to keep on hand. So if we call here the white 0 or 1, if you like, whatever, and at the top end here we've got 10. Quite self-explanatory. We run through the different tones. Now you could expand that, of course. It could be infinite. But when putting most of my paintings together, I think a scale of 10 gradations is more than enough for most paintings. So I'm going to sort of draw your attention to here. I'm going to explain how I use them in a moment before we get to the demonstration. But once you've got into the habit of thinking tonally, you then apply your colors in a tonal fashion. If you think about it, 2 and 3 could be a pale blue. Maybe you're using a watered down ultramarine blue or cobalt blue, okay? But you need to water that down, because you've got to remember this, of course. When a color comes out of its tube, it's at full saturation. So it's at full intensity. And ultramarine blue, if you were to take ultramarine blue directly out of the tube at full intensity, let me just put a mark. It's going to be somewhere around, I'm going to place it here. because that's its tonal value territory. That ultramarine blue, straight from the tube, with no water added to it, no other colors added to it, is going to have a tonal value of about 6, 7, 8, maybe. It's in this territory here on my scale. Okay.
And interestingly, the way you've drawn it there, because we've hosted a lot of artists that have talked about connecting the shadows, connecting the darks.
Yeah.
And yet the way you've drawn it there, you were connecting them. You weren't
Yeah.
doing dots and lumps in different.
Yeah, connected. Again, here we go. All these things are related to everything, every other principle and element.
Which may come into the focal point thing, I guess, probably.
Yes, which is what we'll be doing next week. Absolutely. Tone and the use of tone and line, because you can use your tone within lines. You know, these darker tone shapes don't have to be solid mass shapes like this. You could use them in line form, couldn't you? You know, sort of, and of course, lines, as you've already said, connect things.
Yes. Yeah. Now, Karen said, when you did that example, you got the 1 to 2, the 2 to 4, the 8 to 9. She said, but what about the tonal value 4 to 8? And I guess you would say you don't have to use all the tones.
No, you don't. No. That's the whole point. If you start using all the tones, you'll find it
a mishmash.
You find it a bit of a mishmash. So this is why we need to plan, to make tonal plans. Make lots of these little things with your own designs. As you say, they're very useful. I've taken this down to a sheer abstract version. That's all we're looking at there really is three tonal values, the most basic. I've got white, I've got a tonal value here of something like 4 or 5 maybe, and my tonal value of 9 or 10 even for that little shape. I love to play around with, you could do versions of all of these. I could change this triangular shape here to that one and swap those over, swap these over, swap those two over. You need to play around with them. But what it'll do, you see, with regular exercise, it'll really set that hard. It'll be hardwired in your head to think like that before you pick up your brush.
Aurora's got a very good question. She said, does this work for foggy scenes? Because obviously if it's foggy, that is going to have that sort of
that's a really good question. And it's like everything else in art and what we do, there's always exceptions. Right, the foggy scene, no, tonal values are going to be much closer in foggy scenes. That's a great question. You know, in foggy scenes, you can expect your tones to be a lot closer.
Yes, now however you say that, I mean, we hosted David R. Smith, who did I remember a scene, it was like a woodland and it had geese flying across.
Yeah.
And it was the mist across. But in the edges of that forest scene, there were the darker values, and the geese themselves had that draw in, you know, they had the darker values on. So
but the exception, it's because it's an exception. So foggy scene. Okay, imagine a row of conifer trees, something like this, in fog. You have to still create an area of lucidity, of something to focus on. Otherwise, it would be a grey piece of paper.
Yes, exactly.
So what you do is, it's all relative, you see.
So Howard's going to now go through and talk through the things that we've just covered about values while we pull this together on the page.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've purposely chosen only 2 colors. I want to give you all a quick tip about if you're going to start doing lots of tonal paintings. I highly recommend that you use just 2 colors.
I know we're going to be covering simplification in a couple of weeks, so don't want to steal the thunder on that one either. But when I squint my eyes on this one of the key components that really stands out is that little, I think it's probably a reflection from a gutter or something. It's just a very bright, yes, there. Yeah. Now, would that be something that you would think, I'm going to highlight that, or would it confuse the viewer, or therefore you'd make it disappear?
Oh, there is the dilemma of the watercolorist or any painter. Yeah, it's certainly one of those things I'd be giving consideration to, John. If it's focal point territory, which potentially it is, let's have a quick chat about that. If it's focal point territory, I'd risk my arm and try to make it look that way, make it look like what it is, and that's a reflected surface at the base of a window. But I'll tell you, this is so difficult not to go into other elements and principles. Do you know what plays trump over all shapes? Is the anomaly, and the anomaly we have is the vertical, is that tower.
Right.
So every horizontal, every landscape orientation needs a vertical, even if it's only a single tree. A landscape without a strong vertical can be quite serene. I'm not saying you never see landscape paintings without a vertical anomaly in its design, but you usually do. Right, so my goal is to show you how I am going to make sure that I use my tones effectively, okay? So I want to sort of encompass the light. Let's get some paint going. So two different colors, but potentially two the same tonal values, okay? The sky being blue, but might still have the tonal value of, say, 3. And the roof could be burnt sienna, a different color, but could still have the tonal value of 3. Bit of extra darkness there. I'll just put the mount around this, and I can't resist it. So let's finish off by looking back at the scale, the grayscale that we had. Okay. Wherever that's gone. There it is.
I mean, it truly shows the importance of values, doesn't it? Because you've literally created that with so much depth with literally just 2 colors.
Yeah,
And
yeah, just 2 colors and varying the temperature and the intensity, the depth of the color. So
Aurora said, superb value class. So thank you, Aurora. That was great. Trina said, another fabulous class with Howard. I love working with just 2 colors sometimes, and have been playing and matching colors to values in portraits this week. She had an earlier comment actually about that. So she was playing with color and value with a flat brush on a portrait, using colors that go with the value that she's seeing in a black and white photo. Yeah, it was a very interesting exercise. So yeah, no, that was really good. Lenore said, a super interesting program, except that I joined late. I now have got the starting times wrong twice. Look forward to focal points. Oh, Lenore, well, at least you'll be able to catch up with the video anyway. Someone else said, really great reiteration of how important the ratios in the value make such a difference, and the importance of planning. Yeah, I think those thumbnail sketches, I can imagine people skip that a bit because it's oh, let's just do the painting. I just want to get on with the painting. But to do those little thumbnails, and it probably would only take you quarter of an hour, half an hour or something, just to knock something up, and it could really make a big difference. Alessandra said, fantastic, thanks both, such a dense hour. I feel like I need to watch this class on repeat, lots and lots of things to assimilate. Fiona said, excellent, increased my understanding, thank you. And Anne said, thank you, I will start doing thumbnails, and I also like working with few colors. Yeah, I mean, you don't have to work with a gazillion colors, do you? It's all about the tones that you create with, and it'll save you loads of money as well. You only need to buy 2 tubes. Whoa. Brilliant. Well, Howard, thank you once again for a great session. It's been really lovely, and really looking forward to focal points next week. It'd be really interesting to think about how we already know a little bit about that, horizontals and verticals, I'm guessing, but No, it should be really fun. But yeah, hopefully this is quite good for you to refresh yourself on some of these things.
It's always one finger points at everybody else and two back at myself. I learn so much from teaching others.
Yeah.
I've got to say huge thanks to those that brilliant questions today.
But until next week, it's obviously goodbye from me. But obviously, thank you so much for today. Thanks, Howard.
Thank you, John. Pleasure.
Take care. Bye, everyone.
Bye to everybody. Bye-bye.